I assume you're here because you've seen the thumbnail of this video. And to explain myself, this is what happens when you give me time, the right tools, and leave me unsupervised. I first want to show you how the project started, and then at the end of the video, I'll come back to you and explain my thoughts and process, and maybe my feelings about how this project turned out. But let's rewind a little bit and see what happened. Today is November 30th, and I'm saying the date because I don't know when this project will be finished. It has been planned in my head for several months already. So who knows? This might be coming out in 2026, and it's nice to have a date as reference. Let me introduce the subject of today's video. This is my brown regular size Traveler's Company cover. It was gifted to me January of this year by my dear friends. Hi, LNPD, for watching. I hope you are not getting mad if you see what I have in store for this cover, which probably by the title of this video has given you an idea. So if this is going to hurt your soul, please don't look and don't come for me. But anyway, this cover was gifted to me by my dear friends for my birthday in January, and I used it immediately. I set it up and I used it as a bullet journal. The insert is still in here. It's not finished at all because I quickly abandoned it. It was sort of a bullet journal. Bullet journaling has not worked for me for years, and I switched to a actual planners. But I didn't start 2026 with a planner that I bought. I only had a journal. So I was like, yeah, let's try bullet journaling again. Didn't work. So this has been sitting kind of unused in my storage. But for 2026, I want to use this cover or even the Traveler's Company system for my journaling. So Spider for my Tichogagi if I ever film that this year. No promises. So I switched from this as a bullet journal to Hobonichi Weeks. That's beside the point. So next year, this will be my journal. Where was I going with this? Oh, yes. And this cover is kind of plain. Most of my covers have been sort of modified, usually by a stamp, and I have plans for them in the future. But for this cover, for the longest time, I didn't know what I wanted to do with it. I didn't know if I wanted to stamp it, if I wanted to do something else, and I think I finally have decided. So if you followed me for a long time, at least not even that long, maybe last year, I embroidered a black TN passport cover. It was scary on one hand. On the other hand, black covers are my least favorite, and I've already regifted this or regifted. No, I've gifted this to black cover to Maddie from Hello Naya. I hope she loves it. But I miss the texture that it gave the cover. Like I miss holding it in my hand. I don't like the black cover itself, but I really liked how the embroidery felt. So I thought embroidery is going to be the perfect modification for this cover to make it truly mine. And I spent months thinking about this. I got this in January. It is now November 30th. It's been 11 months. So I spent countless of hours scrolling through Pinterest. I knew I wanted something geometrical for embroidery. The reason is this is leather. So when you embroider fabric, let me grab fabric. So I also made this cover. It's in another YouTube video of mine. If you embroider fabric, you're essentially pushing a needle through threads, and threads have gaps between them, so it's easier to get the needle through, and you can create like round shapes and not specifically geometric shapes. But this is leather, so you have to poke holes through this. And first of all, I need to be mindful of how many holes I have to poke. The holes cannot be too close together because then you get one big gap and it doesn't self heal. Like fabric kind of self heals. You poke a needle between the fibers, but if you are like, oh, I don't need the hole to be there, you just take the needle out and the fibers basically go back into place. Nothing bad happened. It's different for leather, obviously. It's a different type of material. You have to poke in holes and it won't heal. So I have to be really careful with what I planned for embroidery on this cover. Anyway, on Pinterest, and I'm on my PC, so I can tell you what I looked at. I will insert a screen capture. I initially was stuck thinking about Sashiko. Sashiko, I hope I pronounced that correctly, because it's directional and it seemed easy to attain in letter. But I couldn't really find the Sashiko pattern that I really liked and enjoyed. And then you know how the algorithm works? The algorithm. The more you look up specific topics, the more gets pushed onto your feed. And I got so much embroidery inspiration. Like I was like, okay, maybe I can attempt to do flowers and round shapes. I was like, yeah, maybe not. So it took me a long time. And in the end, I ended up sketching in my Hobonichi in the back because I have so many empty grid pages. I took several patterns that I liked and I basically sketched them out following the grid of the Hobonichi because ideally, this style of grid is the same style of grid I want to create in the leather cover to embroider. So I tried flowers, I tried sashiko inspired patterns. I tried quite a couple of things. So this is not the only patterns I tried. I also had some digital drawings, but none of them really made me happy. And this one was a really high contender. But then I found this specific inspiration on Pinterest is by a very talented designer called Mifu. Uh, I am not creative enough to come up with my own embroidery design, so unfortunately, I have to copy. I don't have to, but I wanted to copy something that someone else created because that is easier for me. I found this really amazing embroidery that this person did, and wow, I fell in love with it. It didn't leave my mind. It was intricate because I really wanted something intricate, but the more I explored it, which I did on this page and also on this page, the more I explored it, the more I realized that it is probably attainable to do this in on leather. So yes, this is a crazy project. I spent a lot of time thinking about which how I wanted to modify the pattern. Um, I didn't want to copy it 100% how this artist has designed it, so I went through several alterations. And you might not see this on camera, but this is basically the pattern that I came up with. It is still the grid design that this artist has, but there is only one overlapping part here in the corner and then two separate loose ones on the bottom. Uh, it's still connected on paper because I didn't want to cut it out and play with the spacing because this is the spacing that I want to keep. The reason why I think this is it's kind of insane. It's kind of crazy for me to go for an intricate pattern like this, but the size really fits nicely. Like if I put it on the TN like this, I think it fits. Uh, there's not too much white space. It is more or less a grid design. So if I in the future I want to do a different type of embroidery, I can just expand the grid and not have too many issues with the holes I created. So because if I create a more organic shape that is flowers, I need to puncture holes in a circular fashion which doesn't follow a grid pattern, and then I cannot redo the embroidery in the future. I also felt that while this embroidery was geometric, it also gave me that organic roundish shape that I really craved. And I don't know, it looked attainable, so I'm going for it. And actually spent drawing this drawing this pattern on Procreate. So let me get my iPad in here. I hope it's not overexposed, but if it is, I am sorry. Uh, yes, this is the pattern that I created. So I first had a grid um, that I made using the guide in Pinterest. Not Pinterest, in Procreate. I'm so sorry. I had the grid. I drew the pattern. I figured out how I wanted the pattern to look. Then I also drew in the places where I need to make holes, because the nice thing of this pattern is it looks intricate, and on fabric you would have to make more holes. But I think in leather I can get away with a lot less holes and still get the same pattern. So I basically drew out both the design and where I have to create the holes. And I also made a whole overview of the thread direction. So not only do I have the embroidery, but there's optimal ways to embroider, especially on leather. You, I, so in fabric, if you have a knot, if your thread ends, you can just make a knot and you can continue. But this is a leather cover. The amount of knots I have in here will always be shown, and it will interfere with when I write because it will not create a smooth surface. So I also try to optimize the amount of ends or knots I would have in my thread. And so the back pattern would also be nice, so it's not like a mess of threads, but also, I don't know, it just needs to look good on both sides, and that's a challenge. I don't know if this will look good on both sides. I hope so, because theoretically speaking, there's different colors, and I'm not going to explain exactly how I decide the colors and how I decide the directions. I think that is a if you want to replicate this project, you just have to try this for yourself and see what works for you. But there's different colors. Those are all different threads that I will be using, and ideally, I should only be using, I think, 5 different ones. One, two, three, four, five. Yes, 5 threads. So this is gonna be a long project. This is also why I said the date at the start of the video. We have to do a lot of preparation.
At the same time, I didn't want it to be too big because I think the beauty of the scarf is that it's really kind of elegant, small, and it definitely satisfies my itch to knit something lacy and something super intricate on small needle size. I just love how I put so much work into this, and it's still really small and very kind of minimal or something. I can't explain it. I really love the look of super intricate lace knit on smaller needles because I really do not have the time to knit any doilies in the foreseeable future. This felt like a nice substitute. I also really, really love this kind of pale olive color. I think it suits me really well. I'm not sure it works with my undertone, but just like aesthetically, I really like this color, and I think it's a great neutral without being beige or gray or grayish or white or anything like that. It's just a really, really pretty color. I think I will be on the lookout for it in some other yarns, which I can use in the future for like a sweater or clothing, some kind of garment. And I also really enjoyed working with this alpaca too. So this is 50% wool and 50% alpaca, and it has a really slight halo on it. I think it's a really nice choice if you don't want to use mohair, but you want to have some nice like lace weight or light fingering weight yarn for some kind of an open lace project. I can't really comment on the stretchiness of this yarn because I haven't worn it.
Welcome back from the creation part of this project. Now that you've seen how I created, and again, it was not a tutorial, it was just me showing you my process partially for as much as I could film it. I'm sorry I didn't film that much of the embroidery. It was very difficult to see the holes from the reverse side because it's this suede finish. And I really had to keep flipping the cover like from the smooth leather side to the suede side, and I had to look closely where I put in the embroidery needle. It's a leather needle. It's not a real embroidery needle. It is not that sharp. It's still sharp, but not that sharp. It's a different type of needle. But still, I had to be really focused. I had to be careful not to hurt myself, but also not to damage the cover. So there's not that much embroidery filmed. This took me the embroidery took me around 10 hours. I worked on it on let me think, was it a Saturday? Yes, it was Saturday. I'm pretty sure I started at 2 p.m. So 2 in the afternoon, and I worked until 12 in night. At night, I had dinner, but I didn't have to cook dinner. I actually ate dinner while doing the embroidery. You should probably not do that. I really hyper focused on it. So it took me around 10 hours. It was not a quick and easy task. It's a very complex pattern, as you might be able to tell. Somewhere in the middle of the embroidery process, I hated every single second of it, and I was really regretting my choice, especially when I tried to make these lines straight. You can see that they're slightly crooked. Probably no one cares. The pattern itself is still very clear, but I care. I also don't like, well, it's not that I mind it, but I feel like these intersecting lines might have looked better if I had woven them through each other instead of just laying the horizontal lines underneath the vertical lines. I think it would be better if they were like woven and made a grid, like, a little bit of visual with my fingers. But I thought about it halfway through, and I could have adjusted some of these, but I thought it would be better to remain consistent, so I went for consistency. What I also don't like is the back. It's very neat. You these threads are taut, so they won't get stuck on anything. They won't detach. It's very secure. Luckily, I really put effort into making it look neat. However, you can see that the bottom patterns, because they were embroidered separately from this main pattern, they're actually a lot neater. And now I'm thinking that if I had embroidered these patterns individually, it might have turned out neater in the back. Now, will I do that right now? Absolutely not. I'm really not in the mood for another 10 hour. It's probably going to take longer if you do it this way. So, probably 2 days of embroidery. I'm really not in the mood for it. And this is fine. I will have my journal open. I will write. It's completely flat. It will not bother. This will actually not bother me. But I think that in the future, when I will change the color, or if I will, oh my god, talking. Let's try that sentence again. If I will ever change this color of thread, I will probably embroider it this way, and I'm also estimating that this type of embroidery, where you don't go diagonally but where you would embroider every single um, pattern piece individually, will use less thread, because you don't have these really long pieces of thread that you are wasting. There is not that much left of my single spool of DMC that I bought. It's 25 meters. If you've never used DMC thread, there's 25 meters in it. I split the thick thread of, um, I think there's 6 threads in a single, you know what I mean. I split it in half, so there's three, and this is all that I've left. from the whole 25 meter spool. So at the end, I was really being careful that I wouldn't waste thread or wouldn't make any mistakes. So I think if you were to embroider it like this, you would be saving a lot more thread. You would spend more time on it though, but and I think the finish would be neater. So if I ever change the color, I'll probably post it on my Instagram and update you there whether or not it's indeed used less thread and if the finish is neater. But for now, this is it. I'm not touching it. I'm probably not going to touch it in the next 3 months. I shouldn't make any promises that I cannot keep. I don't foresee myself touching this in the next 3 months, but sometimes I have these creative urges in the middle of the night and then I might. So, no promises. What else did I do? Oh, yeah, so I added these embellishments on the back. I also changed the TN because, wait, I have one. Oops, it's fine. This is a non-modified TN, and you normally have the thin um, clasp here. You have a single elastic, and I don't want to open it because there's confidential stuff in here. And you have the elastic. This is what a normal TN, more or less non-modified, looks like. But I removed the thin clasp from here and it's now a charm on the elastic because I really don't like it. I'm not sure if many people have noticed, but if you lay your TN open on another notebook, this thin clasp actually leaves marks on paper and it bothers me. It also makes sure that you cannot lay your notebook completely flat because it's sticking out in the back. So this way it's perfect. It will also not damage the leather because on my camel, where is it? Here, because it also just fell. On my camel, the tin actually left marks. So this way and with this one you can also see I removed it and I put it here on the bookmark. I like to remove them. So I just added some charms there between the two elastics. Yes, there's two elastics now. I probably should take this notebook out so I can show you. What I do is I add in two elastics through this hole and then I thread them the same way as the original elastic. What this does is I can insert two inserts without any issues. You saw it, they actually lay flat. There's no weird movement of the inserts. It's actually a very nice way to have two inserts into your TN. And yes, these elastics kind of stick out, but when they're inside the cover, I don't mind. They're not more annoying than this elastic for the closure. So this is my favorite modification that I do in my TNs. At one point when I own them, I get tired of the original setup and I will modify it. I will usually tuck them in between the inserts like that and sure, sometimes they move, but this is also clearly a very small insert. It's a Take a Note record series. I will eventually do a 2026 setup video, but this does not bother me as much as the thin clasp bothers me. I am sure that if you had a long enough elastic, you might be able to only have one or two knots, but then I have to buy a repair kit and I really don't want to. So I don't want to buy a repair kit to try that out. But maybe one day, you never know. Sometimes things bother me and then I fix it. What else did I do? Okay, I added this, I think it's April yarn thread. It was in a Happy Meal. This lace and this thread were all Happy Meal things. I save a lot of things from my Happy Meals that I get from friends. I threaded it through only the top part, the top slit, but because it's so textured, it doesn't come out, and it's just long enough. Could just hang on the outside, and it would be fine. But I will use it as the bookmark, and I added a charm I received from Camille on the end. I actually really use my bookmarks. I added the original bookmark here as a tie, a bow tie? No, a bow. It's just a bow. A bow on the back. And I try to keep it relatively neutral because this embroidery is visually heavy. And then I thought that too many charms and elements in contrasting colors wouldn't look so good. So this is the end product. I really like it. Sure, there's some improvements, and I'm not sure if it shows on video, but this embroidery looks crooked, a little bit like this way. I measured it, it's super straight, so I think the effect is from not having this side line super straight, but at this point, I am extremely happy with it. It took a while though. It took a while. It took me 24 hours before I really liked how it looked. It's the you've been staring at a craft project so long that you only see the flaws and then you just hate it. But actually, it looks great. I really like it. This is now a unique cover that is just mine. I really like how it feels. I'm a very textural person. I want things to feel nice. And just running my hands over this just makes me so happy. I'm super excited to use this for next year. I will keep my journal in this, so I will probably use it daily and we will see how it will hold up. I'm also excited to see how this thread will hold up after daily use. So yeah, this is it. I hope you enjoyed the b-roll that I will insert. Thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate it. Um, I'm not gonna ask you to subscribe. I don't know when I will upload another video. I am very inconsistent. So maybe don't subscribe, but do like and do follow me on Instagram if you like my content because I'm actually a lot more consistent on my Instagram. Thank you so much and see you next time. Bye bye.